Did mention that we are joined by Sara Goodwins, who is the current 4th Manx Bard. And Sara, before we move on, as I mentioned, you did scribble down a quick poem about pensions when we mentioned this is coming up today. Would you like to read that for us now?
Yes, well, it's actually slightly based on something that I have already written, but I couldn't remember it all, so I've sort of filled in the missing lines. Save for your old age, they said. Prepare for when you're old. So we were careful, saved our cash, we did what we'd been told. But they didn't do what we had done. They didn't show the way. They spent our hard-earned pence, saved none, and left us poor today.
I think that's a sentiment some people would echo, Sara. Thank you very much for doing that.
Okay.
As I mentioned, the hunt is on for a new Manx Bard, so could it be you? Well, if you love poetry, write and perform your own work, would like the chance to represent the Isle of Man both here and further afield, and if you're over the age of 18, then the answer could most definitely be yes. So Sara, tell us more about what the role actually involves. What are people expected to do?
It's quite a challenging role. I must admit, I didn't expect to end up doing some of the things that I have done over the year. I thought there would be a lot of poetry, but I didn't think I'd be meeting quite so many interesting people. I didn't think I'd be here for a start. Some highlights of the job. I had to give a talk from the stage of the Gaiety Theatre to the audience. This was at the end of the Easter Festival of Plays. I'm well aware that I was papering over the cracks because the adjudicator had to have time to go and do something. So they said, well, OK, let's have the Manx Bard talking about barding. And that was really quite amazing because to stand on the stage and talk to the audience, I've never done anything like that before. I had to go to London and give an address to the London Manx Society. I've had various pieces in the North American Manx Society newsletter. I've had things in that. The role is very much representing the Isle of Man, talking about all things Manx. One of the things that I'm hoping to do, although it hasn't happened yet, is the cruise ships that come into the harbour. Some people can't disembark by lighter because of mobility difficulties, and so the thinking is that they wheel me on board. Well, not wheel me on board, obviously, but they get me on board to talk to people who actually have come on a cruise ship to visit the Isle of Man and then can't get here. So the idea is that I go there and tell them a bit about the Isle of Man in the robes, so that they get some experience of what the Isle of Man's all about. I haven't done that yet because the offer is there, but whether I actually go to a cruise ship depends on the captain of the ship, and so far they haven't liked the look of me.
You mentioned the robes. I mean, I should say you haven't worn the robes today, which I can quite understand.
Oh, they're hot.
The heat. Yes. But yes, so it does come with an outfit.
It does, yes.
An official outfit.
And a staff.
Oh, gosh. And that's a thing you hold as opposed to people to look after things for you. Yes.
Yes, I hadn't thought of that.
That would have been very jolly. But
yes,
anyway.
But, the staff is purely ceremonial, though it's very good for dealing with hecklers.
Is it? Maybe you need that for the pensions meeting, Claire. Maybe you could borrow that. I don't know. But in terms of applying for this then, what do people need to do?
Well, applying is actually very simple. You have to write up to 3 poems. It doesn't have to be 3. Most people do submit 3, but it doesn't have to be 3. Up to 3 poems, plus a 500-word resume of what you intend to do in your year as Bard, because different people do different things. And then you have to send all of that into the Bardic Committee, whose email address is, I can't find it.
You have it written down.
Right, okay.
We will find that and put that on
right,
the blog afterwards.
You have to email that into the Bardic Committee by the 17th of August. From there, you will be, if you're shortlisted, you will be selected for interview on the 25th of August, which is a Saturday, and you will be expected to read some of your poetry and also talk about what you're intending to do. The Bardic Committee will make the decision based on what you've said and also how you've presented yourself, because there are some very, very good poets who are very shy and retiring, and part of the job is to get out there and do things. So it's partly to do with the presentation. And then on the following day, on the Sunday the 26th, they will have a bardic inauguration somewhere in Colby, addressed to be notified, in front of the great and the good of the Isle of Man. And it is terrifying.
Oh, well, let's not put people off, Sara. I mean, it's also incredibly exhilarating, I think, is the expression.
I've just been handed the email address, and you can email your entries to manxbard, which is all one word, @gmail.com.
And just finally then, with regard to the pieces that people have to write, would you suggest that they need to have a Manx theme to them?
When I did mine, I had 2 with a Manx theme and 1 with not. The rules say it does not have to have a Manx theme, but I would suggest that at least one of them covers something Manx, because after all you are going to be representing the Isle of Man. It's the Manx Bard. I will say that you do not need to be a Manx speaker. It's helpful if you have some knowledge of the language. I mean, I think ideally they'd like a fluent Manx speaker, but that would severely curtail the number of people that could apply.